I want to let you into a big secret that the 1% don't want you to know. And after having worked in finance for over 15 years, I've seen the 15-65-20 rule separate the 1% from everyone else. This is a very simple but proven and powerful approach to managing your money like the 1%. We're going to start with the 15%, your future. So you need to take 15% of your take-home pay, the pay that actually hits your bank account on payday every month. And you give this 15% a very specific and very important job. This is the money that you put aside for your future self in order to build your financial resilience and how you make money while you sleep. So the first thing that you want to do with this 15% is use it to build up an emergency fund. Because just imagine the scene. Your car breaks down, your boiler breaks, you have an unexpected bill of any kind, and then boom, your finances are in the red faster than you can say, how much? So this 15% allows you to dodge those financial jabs that will eventually come up in your day-to-day life. And here's the truth, if you're not prepared for them, then they can absolutely derail your finances and send you into a money tailspin. So by having a fund that you can dip into, it does two things. It stops you getting into debt to try and solve the problem, whatever the problem may be. But it also means that you can deal with an emergency when you have options available to you. You aren't backed into a corner with only one option. So once you have £1,000 in this fund, you want to use your 15% to gradually build it up to 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. Now, there's a sliding scale about how much you need. If you have irregular income like you're self-employed, then you might want to have it a bit higher. The combination of these two things will immediately and unequivocally ease your financial anxiety. Just imagine knowing that even if you lost your job, you could go 3 to 6 months without needing to dip into a retirement account. You can deal with the problem and not fret about how you're going to have to pay for it. Now, you should keep this money in a high-interest savings account so that you can access it, but also so that you're getting a little bit of interest on top. This money acts as your first line of financial defense. So next, once you have your emergency funds all taken care of, you have another job for your 15%, and that is for you to start building your financial future by investing. Investing is basically the way you turn your money into an employee, the best employee that works 24/7 for you. Now, instead of having that money sitting in a savings account and barely growing, your money gets to go out and work on things like stocks, bonds, or property, assets that will historically grow in value over time. But let's dive into this a bit more. If you leave your money in a savings account, then it will decrease in value over time. That's basically just the effect of inflation. But what you really need is to have your money grow at least at the rate of inflation. But frankly, even that won't be sufficient. You need to be generating real returns. But one of the primary things that will drive that is compound growth. Your money earns returns, and then those returns earn more returns. And Albert Einstein supposedly called it the eighth wonder of the world. Investing consistently, little and often, you're setting yourself up for serious financial long-term wealth. Now, it's all fine and dandy talking about the abstract, but I want to go into an example to really prove why this is so powerful. Let's say we have John and James. John starts investing at 20, £100 a month, all the way up until he retires at 65, assuming an average annual rate of 8% return. More on that a bit later, so stick around for that. He will have £483,000, having only contributed £54,000, which means that compound interest contributed £430,000. And now we have James, who likes to live the high life, splash the cash, and he doesn't start investing until he's 30. He decides he needs to make up for lost time and invests £200 a month. But when he hits 65, he has notably less money than John, despite investing twice the monthly amount. He has £431,000, but has contributed £84,000 and has only accumulated interest of £347,000. So despite his contributions being £84,000 versus John's £54,000, he still has less money. Now, what does this tell us, frankly? That small amounts compounded over a long enough time period will add up to meaningful amounts of money. So the earlier you can start, the less you'll have to contribute in order to hit your investing goals. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, investing isn't about getting rich quick. It's about building security, freedom, and the options for your future self. And just quickly on that 8% return, we said we'd come back to it. This is the average return of the markets when you invest. How you do that, we'll discuss later on in the video. So now you know that you do in fact need to invest and why it is such a good idea. That leads us to the inevitable follow-up question, which is, how should you be investing? So the first thing you want to be investing in is your pension. And I know pensions are boring, but the truth of the matter is pensions get very favourable tax treatment. And in most cases, your employer will match pension contributions up to a certain percent. So it is critical that you are maximising your pension contributions up to this amount. For example, if your employer matches up to 5%, then you should be contributing 5%. And this is tax-free. In fact, it's not just tax-free, but it gets topped up with tax money. And it's also money that your employer will double, which is a pretty sweet deal. Once you're doing that, the next thing to move on to is your tax advantage accounts. So what is an ISA? An ISA is a tax wrapper that lets your cash or investments grow free of UK income tax, dividend tax, and capital gains tax, with tax-free withdrawals at any time, apart from the LISA, but never mind. The current annual allowance is £20,000, and since April 2024, you can pay into multiple ISAs of the same type in the same tax year. And I just really want to go through the differences between tax-advantaged accounts like the ISA and pensions, and it basically boils down to a few things. When you can access them, ISAs you can access at any time, but pensions are time restricted. When you pay tax, pension contributions are made pre-tax, so you get tax relief from it as well as your employer matching. ISAs don't get any top-ups or tax benefits, and that's because contributions are made post-tax. This is basically the flip side to not getting the tax relief, is that you get the flexibility about when you can access that money. The allowances are also different. In the UK, the ISA allowance has a £20,000 limit, as we just mentioned. But for pensions, this is £60,000 or 100% of your salary. But the matching is really what puts the pension ahead of the ISAs and other tax-advantaged accounts. But then we get to the obvious final question, which is what should you be investing in? We know that you have to invest, we know how you can invest, but what should you be putting your money into? The secret here is to keep it super simple with passive funds. This is essentially just a way to track the overall stock market and buy a small piece of all the companies that sit within that fund or that index. These funds automatically diversify your money across hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of companies and gives you completely diversified risk and means you're not putting all your eggs in one financial basket. They also come with super low fees, which means that more of your money gets to work for you. And this is even advocated for by the greatest investor in history, Warren Buffett, who said, quote, "By periodically investing in an index fund, for example, the know-nothing investor can actually outperform most investment professionals." So once you've got your tax-advantaged accounts like your ISA set up and you're contributing regularly, you can just let those passive funds do their thing. No need to constantly buy, sell, read annual reports or try and beat the market. Literally just set it and forget it. Now, I know I've dumped a whole load of information on you so far, but this is thankfully where things get easier. Next, we have the 65%, which is your fundamental. Now, the 65% is designed to cover the costs that you have to cover, basically. This is your rent, your mortgage, groceries, gas, electric, commuting costs, all of those sorts of things. But here's the thing. By capping these core expenses to 65%, it gives you a few key advantages. The first is that it keeps your lifestyle costs under control because of this thing called lifestyle creep. That's as your income rises, you want to live in a bigger place, have a nicer car, eat at better restaurants, wear nicer clothes, but the culmination of all these increases in your expenses will just eat into more and more of your budget. So you're not making progress even when your salary goes up. So capping this amount will really help. And now I should also add, it's not lost on me that this can be really hard if you live in a city or another high cost of living area. And frankly, the cost of living in those areas has absolutely exploded in the last 3 years. So keeping your costs to 65% has never been more difficult. But you should do an audit of all your expenses. This will give you a much, much better idea about where your money is actually going and how you can get below the 65% threshold. It's like being a mechanic. You need to open the bonnet, see what's what, and then you can start to diagnose and fix the problem rather than just cracking the tools out straight away. But here's the thing. The best plan is the one that you can stick to. And the science shows us that you're more likely to stick to one that includes spending money on the things you actually want to spend your money on, which takes us on to the final part, the fun 20%. Now, this is the easy one. This is the most underestimated part of the rule. So many budgets just ignore fun altogether. They focus only on saving essentials and living on nothing but bread and water. But here's the truth. If your financial plan doesn't include some kind of relief from spreadsheets, budgets, and calculators, then you just won't stick to it. And it's as simple as that. This 20% of guilt-free spending money gives you exactly that. Guilt-free permission to enjoy your money that you go out and work for. whether it's dining out, travel, gadgets, entertainment, or hobbies, or whatever it may be. But why is this so important? The first is it prevents you from a budget burnout. Research shows that people are far more likely to stick with restrictive plans if they have these built-in reward schemes. If your plan feels like it's just endless sacrifice, you're just going to abandon it at a moment's notice. The 20% helps you balance your short-term wants with your long-term needs. Secondly, it recognizes the psychological value of money. Money isn't just security, it's about experiences, memories, enjoyments, and spending time with the people who you want to spend time with. Spending it on holidays, concerts, meals with friends has a sort of happiness return that buying physical goods just doesn't. Studies in behavioral economics show that spending on experiences brings longer lasting happiness than material possessions. So it's not just about buying a fancy car, but also the time you get to spend with your friends and family. Something that we discussed in this video and indeed in this book just here. Third, it helps you align your spending with your values. This 20% is your chance to put money into the things that truly bring you happiness without the guilt of, oh God, I shouldn't be spending money on this. No. You've already taken care of your future self. That's already in the budget. And maybe the most important part is it creates financial resilience through balance. By having a controlled outlet for your discretionary spending, you reduce the urge to just splurge on things uncontrollably and fall into revenge spending when you feel as though you've been deprived. You know that this slice of your budget is fun and meant just for you. Because as we said earlier on in the video, at the end of the day, the best financial plan is the one you can actually stick to. We have 3 videos on screens: how to think about money like the 1%, investing tips from ISA millionaires, and what to do if money keeps you up at night. If you've liked this video, please like and subscribe. Thanks very much for watching.